And well, as a psychiatrist, ex-psychiatrist, I'm also super excited about, the understanding of mood, personality. And you even mentioned that you were able to, from the genetic profile, some people are geared toward being entrepreneurs, some people are
Yeah.
geared toward being scientists. Like, can you explain that a little bit? That's
Yeah,
such
yeah,
a
for sure.
fascinating
So
subject.
yeah, so it's, mood and behavior is where I find is it's the most empowering thing about doing a genetic test is your understanding your mood and behavior profile, because it unlocks so many answers. It gives the answers to so many questions people say, why am I this way? Why is it that when I'm writing an email and I notice a flickering light or a ticking clock or someone is talking in a conversation, I can't focus anymore until I deal with that? Why is it that, every time I watch a scary movie, even if I've seen it 5 times, I still jump and freak out at the same scary scene? I have the spook gene. There's an actual gene that is related to being spooked easily, right?
Mm.
Why is it that I binge on my favorite, like I can go 2 weeks without watching Netflix, but the minute I sit down and watch my favorite episodes of, I don't know, Game of Thrones or whatever it is people watch nowadays, I can watch 5 episodes in a row. I'll just binge the heck out of it. Versus other people are like, I only feel pleasure when I'm in my business or when I'm doing sales or when I'm like in the moment. That's where I feel pleasure. Like, there are people who are addicted to work because it's the only way they achieve some sort of satisfaction. And that
Mhm.
all comes down to your genetics. Literally,
Mhm.
there are genes that are predisposing you to certain behaviors because of how they deal with the neurotransmitters, the chemicals in your brain that influence mood and behavior. Things like dopamine, which is tied to pleasure, things like noradrenaline, which is tied to anxiety and woe, things like serotonin, which has to do with calm and focus, or even things like BDNF. So people out there, this is really important for people with traumatic brain injury or any kind of trauma to the brain. People with low levels of BDNF tend to
Mhm.
be more susceptible to the severity of outcomes associated with traumatic brain injury. And here's a
Mhm.
crazy thing. What we have found is trauma in the brain isn't just physical. Like, yeah, you can have a concussion, you fall off a ladder, you get hit on the field or something, but some people can have chemical trauma. They can be exposed to certain chemicals, and the expression is similar to that of being concussed, right? And there's even mental trauma that can do that. You always hear people, oh, I was shell shocked. They picked up the phone and they found out a close relative just suddenly passed away, and they're shell shocked. And where does shell shock come from? From literally in the war when bombs used to fall and their heads would shake because of how close they were. So they're literally experiencing a mini concussion. Now, people with low levels of BDNF they have a harder time, because you know how neurons work. They kind of work like this and they communicate through electrical impulses. Well, when you have an injury, some of those connections die. And if you have low levels of BDNF, you're not as good at building new neuronal connections. And so that can take a longer time for you to heal. But here's the incredible thing. You know what increases BDNF levels? Using the sauna, going out for exercise. So there's people, I'm sure listeners in here, who are like, man, I feel really good after I go for a workout or after I'm outside in the sun or after I'm come out of the sauna. Like, I feel like I can conquer the day. Yeah, because you've literally given like a boost to BDNF levels in your brain. And it's incredible the kind of changes that people feel in their brain power just by doing these little tweaks. But you wouldn't know that until you did a genetic test, right? You wouldn't know that this is my predisposition until I understand how those genes are influencing my mood and behavior profile. So when it comes to mood and behavior, I mean, some of the insights we have are just, they surprise us every day, because there's people out there who can spot an angry face in the crowd. They can read someone's body language right off their face. They're empaths. They immediately associate with the person's, feelings. But those same people are at greater risk of PTSD. Those
Mhm.
same people are at greater risk of anxiety and burnout. Why? Because they have emotional memory imprint. They allow emotions to influence their memories, their thoughts, their feelings. So, they're the kind of people who have an emotional trigger, like they smell something or they hear something or they see someone and it reminds them of a past trauma. And it's like a negative feedback loop. And it can get really difficult for these people to manage stresses because they just are hardwired to feed off the stress in a negative fashion. And
Hmm.
again, there are ways that we can help them manage that and overcome that, right? If and this is one of my favorite hacks. A lot of people feel a lot of anxiety doing certain tasks, like paying the bills. I just don't want to pay the bill, or I don't want to go talk to my boss, or I don't want to talk to this person because they give me a bad vibe. And one of the most effective ways in helping you overcome difficult tasks is to schedule a fun and exciting task before and after that task. You see what I mean?
Hmm.
So
Okay.
if you're going to pay the bills and you really don't want to pay the bills, you may schedule dance class with your partner right after you pay the bills. That's your reward. And so then what happens is it makes the accomplishing of that difficult task a little bit easier because you're looking forward to what's coming after. You see what I mean? And so
Interesting.
by doing this, you can accomplish a lot of different, like if I pay the bills on time this month, or if I talk to my boss about this, I'm going to reward myself with X. Like I'm going to go out for a dance with my partner, or I'm going to book a trip for myself. And that can be really effective in helping people overcome difficult moments in